Welcome everyone to your brand new Arsenal community. It is fantastic to have all of you here with us because we wanted to create a show that embraces all the highs and all the lows of being an Arsenal fan while still having a bit of fun.
I can't wait to get started. Let's be honest. We're all doing this anyway.
Yeah.
We're all talking about Arsenal all day, every day, as an expression of joy, as a form of therapy.
Yeah.
I've been doing football podcasts for a long time. I've probably never got to speak about Arsenal for longer than about 20 minutes before we have to move on to some nonsense.
There's 15 years worth of Arsenal in Jim's head that's about to
Just
come out.
raging in there. I can't wait.
I've got so much more power in all my WhatsApp groups because I actually do this professionally now. So this is
your dream job.
It's my dream job, guys. So welcome.
Absolutely. And when we started piloting this in November, I don't think we dared to imagine we'd be 6 points clear because that is where we are.
And that is absolutely the narrative, isn't it? That's entirely the
Absolutely.
feeling.
That's what we're leading with, and that's where we're going to go. And that's where we're going to start, actually. Huge thanks to Arsenal for dropping a 0-0 for our first episode. But that is where we're going to start. So Arsenal 0, Liverpool 0. I'm going to start with you, Jonny. Just give me a sense of how you're feeling today, because it was quite a weird one. I've gone through quite a few cycles.
Yeah.
How have you landed this morning?
I'm still wet because it was torrentially raining last night, so it was a difficult game to go and see. But I'm surprisingly deflated. I do feel a little bit weird. Obviously, there's other things that deflected away from it in terms of what happened at the end with Martinelli. But yeah, it was just a weird game. In fact, it was kind of similar to the game at Anfield in terms of a game of two halves But yeah, I wanted to make a statement last night, and I feel it's a missed opportunity. So I'm deflated, but we're 6 points clear. So these are the new fucking standards, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is one of those weird ones where we, as fans, we must have a definitive way of summing up how we feel, and it must be good or bad. This sits very much in the middle, Jim.
Yeah, so a couple of things happened yesterday that I feel kind of illustrate how I now feel about it, which was on the way to the stadium. I watched the game in the stadium. I stepped in a puddle, which is not ideal on a torrential night like that. And on the way back from the game, I live on a side street quite near the stadium, and there was a man outside my building relieving himself pretty much on the gate, right? So I've got a choice to make there, which is like, do I wait for him to finish pissing on my home, or do I just pile in? So I decided to pile in. I kind of awkwardly put my fob on the fob reader, like right where he stood, and try to make sure I'm not getting my shoes wet because of him. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, mate." And ultimately, neither of those things are a disaster, but they're not really how I wanted to spend my evening. And that's kind of how I felt about the game compared to what I was hoping to get from it. And it's interesting that you use the phrase missed opportunity, because on paper, I think it is that. And I think if you show me the score while I was going into the stadium with my expectation, I would feel like that. But based on how the game was itself, if you took away the context of it, you wouldn't necessarily say that, Arsenal threw that away. You might think actually that Liverpool probably had the slightly better chance with Conor Bradley hitting the bar. But that in itself is disappointing, isn't it? This performance, I'm sort of surprised by it and a bit worried by it, to be honest.
So you had a pissy and a puddle as your evening. Pissy puddle. Why were you surprised by it?
Because we've had quite a few games this season, at home in particular, where in the second half, we've come out and we've blown teams away. I'm thinking of Bayern Munich and Aston Villa in particular. Really, really big performances. There's been a few others like that as well. It's been a characteristic of Arsenal this season. And it was just the opposite, wasn't it? Yeah. Liverpool kind of set the agenda.
And I was trying to weigh out what that was. Was that nerves? Was that the fact that it was like the moment or the occasion got too big for us and we realised, Jesus, we can actually go and do it? And it was like, if we lose though, imagine what happens. Or was it fatigue? Because this is the fourth game in how many days? The end of the Christmas period. I'm less going down the route of it being fatigue because you look at Liverpool's team and how stretched they are.
Yeah.
And they were better second half. But also, in terms of how well Liverpool played, I think there's been a little bit of an overstatement there, because it was their first time in 600 games they didn't have a shot on target.
Wow.
So in terms of it, there's been a little bit of sensationalism about how good that performance was. But it was more focusing on, like you say, the second half. We've been dominant second half. Something Arteta says and something we do structurally changes, and we express ourselves second half. You take the handbrake off. Yesterday it was a complete opposite, and I don't know why that was. The only other game it was similar to was, as I say, it's at Anfield, which was we played a little bit better first half, and then second half Liverpool got back into it. It's a similar thing last night. So
yeah.
If we go back right to the beginning, so Jim, you were in the stadium. I was in the stadium.
I was in the famous cock.
Lovely. A pub for all listeners.
Yeah.
Just to be absolutely clear. Just to be
You've
absolutely clear.
bottled that, Laura.
I'm
You've
sorry.
bottled that. That should have just stayed with no
there.
Oh, I'm
context.
so sorry. We're warming up. We're warming up. So you were in a cock and we
Yeah.
were in the stadium watching a load of cocks.
Yeah.
The Arsenal had done, what they usually do to try and generate a big atmosphere. So we had the plastic bags, which was actually a very, very helpful thing to carry my umbrella home in afterwards. Like, really big thank you, Arsenal. We had the plastic bags. We had the kind of hype video.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't really land.
No, it didn't. Did it?
I'm really struggling as to why it just didn't generate the kind of hype that we had for like the Real Madrid game, the Spurs game. I don't want to blame the rain, but it was very rainy.
It was a miserable night.
It was very, and I think it did affect how both teams started the game because it was swirling with rain. Again, I can't believe how much airtime we're giving to the rain here, but it did affect the game.
Yeah, I mean, last night was like, towards the end of Christmas, and you've only got that one bounty in the celebrations, but it's that sort of time of year as well. That post-Christmas blues, honestly, and it sounds silly, but everyone is, kind of tired, and already we're already facing what is the horrible January that we're facing. I feel that even around the ground, because I was around the ground, it weren't the same buzz. I was at the Villa game and my God, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
From the start, you looked around, everyone was like, what's going on here? The light show worked. I mean, I saw the light show on television last night and it wasn't, but even in there, it was like, we finally started doing fireworks with the light show because last year during the Champions League, it was only the lights.
Yeah.
Now we've actually found the budget to do fireworks and actually have fire. But it just there wasn't the same feeling. And I do think it's post-Christmas blues, fourth game in a row, very quick succession. There was an expectation as well. I don't know how many games we've ever gone into thinking, well, we're going to win. Like, look at the state of that Liverpool team. We're supposed to win. And then it's kind of hard to meet that level of expectation.
It's amazing, isn't it, when you go to games regularly, how much those feelings prevail and how much that you can feel them in the atmosphere. I thought actually after the light show and after all that stuff, the initial roar was really loud and the atmosphere was pretty good for a bit, but it just died away quite quickly. And I think there is a sense, isn't there, and we get criticised by fans of other teams for this, for things being a bit forced with those kind of things at the start of the game. And I think this is probably one where that was the case. I think maybe an organic kind of reaction to a game against Liverpool, in circumstances like this, is probably better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know whether it would have been better than it was with the light show and all that stuff, but sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think we get a little bit fatigued by that, and the chance for that atmosphere to grow naturally is taken away a bit. Remember, probably 4 seasons ago now, when Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe were coming through, or whenever that season was, where it was just like vibes and it felt really, really good.
Joy.
The atmosphere was brilliant by itself, and maybe we need to invest in bringing that back a little bit.
It felt a bit like the PSG game, where we'd had that big win against Real Madrid, incredible atmosphere, and then tried to go again with the same kind of stuff, and it just didn't quite work.
No.
But we were dominant for the first 20 minutes. I think that's one thing, Jonny, you said earlier, that there's been a bit of sensationalism about how good Liverpool were. I do think Liverpool were very good in the second half, which we'll talk about. But the first 20 minutes, it did kind of feel like, all right, business as usual here. We just need a goal and we will crack on. And it just didn't come.
Yeah, I think we didn't really have a particularly clear chance, did we? But it felt we were getting in behind them a lot and like something was about to happen. And Gyökeres was really struggling against Bukayo Saka at the start of it. But I think they tweaked something, clearly, because our press stopped functioning. Then it became a little bit more even in that middle section. And then we kind of came back into it again a little bit at the end of the first half. But whatever it was that Slot did, it seemed to really shut off our passing lanes. And there was a moment where William Saliba's on the ball and I'm sure you both remember it. He's standing there for ages looking for a pass. Declan Rice runs over to force it, overhits his pass, and that goes out for a throw. And that seemed to sum it up. I think our passing game had collapsed. Maybe our confidence had gone with it a little bit. And it just wasn't quite working, wasn't it? if you play a game like we do and you're not kind of trusting each other with those passes, then you kind of get in your own heads a little bit. And it did annoyingly feel like we did that to ourselves as much as Liverpool did. And credit to them, Slot has said recently that he's been making them play in a slightly more boring way deliberately, just so they can kind of figure out who they are at the moment. And that's made them less kind of enjoyable to watch, but harder to play against. And I think we were just essentially a victim of that.
Yeah. At times it was a bit like a judo match yesterday where, it's like, everyone's waiting to make that move and everything else. But I do think Liverpool packed the midfield. There was a change that was made where another man came in, basically, and you said the passing lanes weren't there and we couldn't even have the opportunity to break, and we were sort of waiting for that moment to happen. And even when they had the ball, they had a good spell in the first half and they had the ball for a bit, and I was thinking, well, at that point, we're going to wait and see what they do with it, and that was kind of what we did for the whole of the second half, is that we sort of waited for our opportunity when we should have been the protagonist when we're at home. But going back to what we were saying a minute ago, it's jeopardy. I don't think there was enough jeopardy on last night's game, which came with the expectation which you had with Villa, because Villa were close to us, they were nowhere near us, poor team. And the players played like that. Really,
but it's such a weird thing to say, though, because they are the champions. It would have been a very just for the narratives, for the narratives, the kind of the passing of the guard. Like, we'll take this from here, thank you, Liverpool, and it just didn't happen.
But there are positives to take, though. In that.
Okay, go on. Here we go.
Because as you mentioned, that lack of jeopardy is actually a good thing, right? So we're in a good position. So if you're in a situation, you think, all right, this is a cagey game, we could lose it. If we attack it too much, a point's not the worst thing. It's a clean sheet. First one in, I think, last 4 games we've conceded. So that's good. Obviously, Gabriel and Saliba being back will hopefully lead to more of that.
Raya didn't get lobbed.
No,
he almost
did.
I would have run on the pitch. You would have been taking me out the Emirates in a police van. I was so angry.
I feel like the defenders trust Raya so much. Yeah. They sometimes hit him with what are you going to do with this?
Yeah. Kind of just to make sure you're concentrating, because you've not touched the ball for a bit. Yeah. I'm gonna shank this one at you and just have a go.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been furious with Saliba if I was Raya if that had gone in. And I actually, it's funny, isn't it, how Liverpool technically didn't have a shot on target, but they hit the bar. I
know. I thought it had gone in, so I actually put my head in my hands, and then I was waiting for that kind of awful sound of the away fans where they go nuts, and it didn't come. Yeah. And I just thought, oh, you lucky man, because another lob, I really would have been upset.
If that goes to Ekitike, Salah, or even Isak on the rebound as well, and not Gakpo, I think they score.
Well, speaking of world-class strikers, Gyökeres. Let's talk about Gyökeres, because I think last night does feel like a bit of a line in the sand for a lot of fans in terms of that performance. 8 touches, like 0.00 XG generated if you are an XG merchant. It was hard to watch, and Jim, I think it was hard to defend.
Yeah, I think so. If you are, obviously we all want to back our own players, right? We're in a situation here where we're supporters of Arsenal and we're talking about the club we love. We want to back those players. But I think part of the issue is that any kind of realistic assessment of Gyökeres at the moment sounds like criticism, right? Because you can only really talk about what you're seeing, and we can talk about the potential for him to kind of hit the heights he did in Portugal, or adapt his game more, and we can talk about what might happen if he gets on the same wavelength as the players. At the moment, just none of that is happening. He's not kind of where he needs to be really often. He's not particularly fast by the standards of the Premier League, which was one of the things that set him apart in Portugal. I'm sure we all watched every goal that he scored for Sporting when we were kind of looking at him in the summer, and quite often he would either win a physical duel with a player or power away from them with his pace. Quite often it would be a bit of both, and then he would score at the end of it. But he doesn't seem like he's strong enough really to compete with a lot of Premier League defenders, and I saw him struggle against Max Kilman and Dinos Mavropanos, right? So it's quite profound.
His finishing is not great either, and I say this, I was watching him in the warm-up, as I do when I'm in my seat early, and he was spraying it all over the place. Now, I know people are, he's not trying in the warm-up, it's just a warm-up, but it just did not fill me with any confidence. I saw him blaze one over the bar, one went straight to the keeper, one went wide, and I just thought, wow, you can't win at the moment.
On that point, and this is what I always talk about with my lot about Arsenal strikers, we've seen some great technicians. He's not at the technical level, and I read an anecdote from Robin van Persie about him watching Bergkamp train in his last season, and he was upstairs in a hot tub saying, I'll get out the hot tub when Bergkamp misplaces a pass. And he sat in a hot tub until his hands were wrinkled because he was so good. And he said what he learned from watching Bergkamp, he trained at an intensity which made sure that, in the game, there wouldn't be a misplaced touch or anything else. So you can tell a lot from a warm-up. I've been saying this pretty much from probably about 5 games in. I don't think he's at the technical level. I don't think the players think he is either. So I think that's a subconscious thing. I don't think they're consciously not looking for him, but I feel like they'll look for a better option if there is someone to play him because he can't hold the ball up. And it's now a case of he's fighting for every touch. It's like he doesn't trust his own, and it might be down to confidence. And I'm not going to write off the player at all because when we signed him, my thing was his mindset. You could tell he's got this. You looked at his backstory and where he's come from and how he's fought to get to where he was. And he wanted to play for Arsenal so badly. I thought that would carry him through. But brain power doesn't score goals.
Yeah. You can also see that he's more frustrated than this by anybody as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's desperate at the moment.
As you suggest, though, it's like if a player's not at the technical level, particularly at 27, right?
Yeah.
He's got a really, really steep curve ahead of him. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we probably have to clarify that we want him to succeed. I really want him to succeed.
And I think that's part of it. You're desperate to see him succeed because also at the moment, it started off as every time he gets the ball, I'm thinking, please do something. Now I'm sort of physically cringing because I'm like, please don't mess it up because it's just tally after tally of moments where it's kind of building up evidence of this player isn't right for us.
Yeah.
And we're sort of going down the flow chart of, right, okay, we start off with he's not scoring goals, but he's doing stuff off the ball. Now he's not doing stuff off the ball. We can say that he's trying. Now that he's not, well, he is trying, but now he's not looking like he's trying.
Yeah.
We're sort of the mental gymnastics having to go through at the moment to find a positive is really difficult.
Yeah, people talk about him occupying space, which is physically impossible not to do.
I was about to say,
living being.
He spent a lot of time standing in between Van Dijk and Konate. That's sort of your job.
That was my point.
Not to get all Roy Keane about it, but that's your job.
Well, it is. Well, he's there. He plays within the width of the 18-yard box, old school number 9. That's what we were all crying. Well, not all of us were crying out for. But I think people were saying that he's such a handful of defenders. I think he's probably the easiest striker in the league to defend against in a low block. So Liverpool, a lot of the first half, sat off. It's very easy because you haven't got to even look where he's going to be. He's there.
Yeah.
Like he's not, and he doesn't make creatives. There's not enough creative movement there. He doesn't do what the defenders wouldn't expect him to do. He does exactly what he should, the obvious moves every time.
He did one pass yesterday,
The flip.
Which was great.
Which was great. As I said to you guys, I celebrated like a goal. I was like, that's a gorgeous little ball, kind of right to the touch line. But
And he's had a few of those moments, but they stand out so
Yes.
much because you don't really see him on the ball that often. And I think Daniel Sturridge pointed out that Haaland doesn't have a lot of touches, but that's obviously a ridiculous comparison to make. We don't even need to explain why.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Speaking of wild, shall we have a measured chat about Gabriel Martinelli at the end of the game? Because this has probably been the main talking point of what was ultimately quite an uneventful, very low XG, not many narratives apart from this right at the very end. So Conor Bradley goes down, looked quite a bad injury. Martinelli gives him a bit of a shove off the pitch. Everyone's lost their tiny minds about this, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think I watched it back this morning, and I don't think Martinelli's looking in Bradley's direction when he goes down.
No.
So I think everyone's given Martinelli the benefit of that doubt, including Arne Slot, who I thought was brilliant in diffusing this, actually, because we know how toxic online kind of football fandom can be. And I thought Slot, it felt like he was sort of having that in mind when he said that, and I think credit to him for that. But yeah, I don't think Martinelli would do that if he actually knew that Conor Bradley was injured, right? And it is silly, it is hot-headed. He shouldn't be doing it anyway. You need to be a bit more composed, a bit more measured than that. But yeah, it's
for me. Everyone looks at it. We all watch Martinelli for how many years now? He's like an excitable choir boy. Really, he is a really enthusiastic 8-year-old. That's all he is, and you could never. He's never been any sort of evidence of that behaviour at any point in his career. At that point, it's 92nd minute. We're frustrated. 0-0. Like you say, he hasn't seen it. Also, in the first half, Frimpong's gone down, which was ridiculous, and stayed down for about 5 minutes and tried to foil one of our attacks. And he's watching that from the bench.
Yeah.
So he's assuming it's just a repeated action.
Yeah. But Martinelli did the same thing himself, didn't he, in this mad drama?
I was going to say, Jonny, the only thing I disagree on slightly is I don't think Martinelli is a malicious player. I do think he has a bit of an edge to him. And I think that comes across, as you said, in the kind of lying down, pretending to be injured.
Oh, yeah.
But that's exactly the point here. Gary Neville has written something about how it was obvious it was a serious injury. It is never obvious it's a serious injury unless there is blood or a bone poking out.
Exactly.
Because the players go down like it's a serious injury every single time. This is exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's kind of the effect of the words that Slot said as well, that this sort of thing happens because we see players feigning injury. So again, fair play to him there.
But it gave everyone a good kind of anchor to get really angry about, because other than that, it was maybe a drab performance, but Arsenal are still 6 points clear. And Man City drew on Wednesday night. So that was really the only kind of point we can really point score against Arsenal is one of your players shoved off a seriously injured one. Yeah.
The irony of Roy Keane pulling out the moral card over that when he ended someone's career is just crazy.
Absolutely. Well, we are 6 points clear. And after the break, Thomas Frank gets his hands finally on a cup. Thomas Frank was pictured holding a coffee cup with the Arsenal crest on it before Spurs' 3-2 defeat at Bournemouth. Now, I'm going to shock you here. I don't care.
No?
I think this is such a non-story, but I'm intrigued to hear what you guys think, because I'm like, yeah, you just picked it up. It was in the changing room after the game. Is that... are we so starved of stories that this is a thing? Am I just boring? Am I a boomer?
The problem is it doesn't matter that you don't care.
Oh,
what matters is the internet cares.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
There's just no getting away from that.
More importantly, the Spurs fans, and I know a lot of them, they're looking for an excuse to get rid of this man. And it was the most poetic thing I think I've ever seen. They lose last minute, and then all of a sudden we have a viral moment of their manager, who they already think is an Arsenal agent, walking around with a cup of Arsenal. It's mental. That's why I thought we'd win easily last night. I was like, we're having the best week we could have ever had.
I am intrigued about the mechanics of it, because I was in my kitchen this morning trying to work out if I could pick up a cup and not see the other side of it, because the picture is obviously from kind of facing him and the crest of Arsenal is facing towards the camera.
I love that you've gone full CSI.
Oh, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this properly. Like, if I'm going to, if I'm going to say something, I want to have tested it beforehand. But I can't see a way in which, unless it was handed to him a couple of seconds before and he had no time to adjust, would you not, give it a bit of a, I don't know, would you not give it a bit of a look?
He's got so many other things on his mind, doesn't he? He just essentially can't see what's right in front of him. And I part of the takeaway for me from this is that the explanation of why it was there in the first place was that we were the last away team in the dressing room. It's like, do we not tidy up after ourselves?
Yeah.
Like,
or
is this some sort of deliberate sabotage?
So I was thinking,
I've never seen it before.
It's very Malcolm Tucker in The Thick of It, when he forces Nicola to show quiet bat people.
Yes.
When she's carrying the newspapers. That's what it feels like. But I do wonder whether he just picked up. But also, would you not think it may be a bit dirty? You want a fresh one? You can have a fresh one.
Again, he's got
two.
thousands of bigger problems.
Something more sinister at play. I think he's trying to get sacked because I'm not being funny. The way he can't turn around. The way Spurs fans feel about him, there is no turning it around. And he's got a big payout potentially as well.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of it lately.
Yeah.
Maresca and Amorim, who've got to do it in increasingly creative
have you seen Amorim
ways.
walking around Manchester? I think he's won the lottery.
It's amazing, isn't it? Jacob Hawley and I were talking about this the other day, and that picture of him and his wife leaving the sort of in the snowy streets, it looks like a sort of Christmas card that you send out to your friends and family.
Music playing.
It looks like a scene from The Holiday.
Stuff.
Yeah. New Jude Law off to a country house with his wife to have a lovely old meal in the middle of the week.
And he looks so rich. I remember I was looking, they both look so rich.
Yeah, they look like they're glowing with this incredible golden glow, and also they look 10 years younger, or Amorim did, certainly.
Yeah.
And maybe Frank is trying to do the same thing, because Enzo Maresca was sort of sacked by 1,000 cuts, wasn't he? He had loads of different mad things to add them all together.
That was complete sabotage. Yeah.
Maybe they have a WhatsApp group where they all kind of send each other tips.
Yeah,
or
dares.
Right. Yeah, okay, so I've talked about how much I hate the board. I've talked about how the players, don't support me. Okay, and then one of them's like, right, how about you get a cup of your rival and you just, innocently drink from it and then pretend you weren't aware of it.
The nuclear option.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're just all sharing tips.
Yeah.
I was sad when Thomas Frank joined Spurs, I have to say, because I do really like him, but it turns out I like him more than ever. It's actually worked out perfectly.
And he loves us as well.
Seems that way, yeah.
Yeah, you can come, I was going to say you can be a boot boy at Arsenal. That'd be rude, wouldn't it? Very rude.
Well, Thomas Frank will obviously be watching us at 2:00 on Sunday, coffee cup in hand, as we face Portsmouth in the FA Cup. This is a magical weekend. This is one of my favourites of January, a highlight in January. Before we talk about who we might expect to see on the pitch, how are we feeling about the FA Cup this year? How are we feeling about how much effort we want to put into it, how important it is? Because it's been a while since we've had a good run, and I'm a bit starved of FA Cup love. I want to go to Wembley. I don't know what you think, Jim.
Yeah, I am very much of the opinion that the quadruple is still on. That we should be kind of going for that with all guns blazing, really. But yeah, I agree. So I think Arteta's record in knockout competitions isn't great, right? And whether or not you want to look at the past few seasons and go, oh, we've had other priorities, that doesn't matter to me. You know, I think you need to be competing in these cups. I hate that we've only won the League Cup twice, I think it is. Like, I think like even the Carabao, I really want us to win it, because a lot of sides, they almost use it as like trophy practice. And we want to be in a situation where we win a lot and we win regularly, and we've not been able to do that, and it's important that we get there. And the FA Cup's a big part of that as well. And also, you learn so much from these knockout games in terms of mentality and all kinds of different things that we've kind of been starved of the opportunity for that. And we've got a squad that, you know, when everybody's fit, or certainly when a reasonable amount of people are fit, there is kind of no excuse really to not go for these cups. And actually, if you put out our you know, in quotes, worst 11, it's a strong side. We are incapable of sending out a side that shouldn't be able to compete. So I want us to go deep in the FA Cup.
That is our cup. Let's have it.
Yeah, we've won it more than anyone,
no
right?
bones about it. We've won it more than anyone. It's what kept Arteta in a job, you know, in the early years, let's be honest, because he was, you know, that without that 2020 FA Cup win, he might not be here. But I think we need to pay it a vast amount more respect than we have done. And don't get me wrong, we've gone out to United and Liverpool and Forest in the last few years. But yes, we got a good draw. You know, Portsmouth away isn't easy, but we got a good draw. I'd like to treat it with some respect and go deep. And especially off the back of the Liverpool performance, I want a very strong performance on Sunday.
Yeah.
You want a strong performance. Do you want a strong team? Or is this an opportunity for, as you said, we still got a couple coming back from injury. I think Calafiori is still a couple of games away. Kai seems to be near and then not. But is this a game where, you know, we might see a bit of rotation? Is it somewhere that we could play Eze, that kind of thing? Or do we just go full strength and hope and pray, Jim?
Well, we're in a weird situation depending on Hincapie's injury, right? Because he came off last night. So we might have to play Gabriel and Saliba, right? Which is bad news for Portsmouth, I would say. Otherwise, I would rotate as heavily as possible. I'd have Kepa in goal.
Yeah, without doubt.
White and Miles Lewis-Skelly as the fullbacks. Norgard, Marino, Nwaneri in the middle. And I would try Eze on the left again, because I think that is a useful option to have him there. Obviously, after he didn't track Matty Cash for that Villa goal, we've not seen a sniff of him there.
He's been on the naughty step.
Presumably, you know, that experiment isn't over. And then I'd pick Noddy Madueke on the other side. And I would still go for Gyökeres as well. So I think to me, that's as heavily as you can rotate, and that's what I would do. Portsmouth recently lost 5-0 to Bristol City, and they're 21st in the Championship. We shouldn't be shy about, you know, rotating.
What's the thinking behind Gyökeres? I think given what we talked about earlier, we just kind of, we carry on and we let him build some confidence, Jonny?
I think maybe it's time to give him some time out of the team. I think he needs to, I feel as though, you can try and keep this guy confidence, but he is shot, like psychologically. I think he needs a break, if I'm honest, and maybe bringing him back for the League Cup game or whatever else, but just give him a little bit of time away from it.
Do you know what I think we should do? Just ship him off to Dubai.
Give him a week.
Yeah, no, just him. Just pop him on a plane.
And Ben White, maybe.
Ben White to show him around, to be like, this is Ocean Beach, like this is where we do this. Just get him to Dubai on his own with Ben White, just to kind of recuperate. I'm fully behind that.
Is there anywhere we can watch the football? I don't know.
You're not thinking about that. Not in the moment,
Watch
Victor.
the TV.
Yeah, you're getting your head straight and enjoying a bit of sun while you're at it. I think that'd be great. Bournemouth are reportedly interested in a loan move for Nwaneri. Now, this feels like a game where he could potentially play for Arsenal. How would we feel if he went out on loan? I would be gutted, but he is also just not playing.
I feel as though with Ethan, I earmarked him for a Ballon d'Or this time last year. By the time he was 21, so.
No, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah,
you know,
I know,
but
I always say it.
I respect the honesty. Yeah,
but Yeah, he's a very, very good player. I think he's in a similar position to Eze, where I think Arteta, until we get this first league title, he's not going to trust or give time to players that don't do the work off the ball or switch off. And I think what we noticed last year where Ethan couldn't play a full 65, he couldn't get past 65 minutes out of fitness. Now he wants to play centrally. That was what one of the conditions signing his contract. He has to lock in a little bit more. And I feel as though as much as he tries to, I feel as though he has work to do there. And just he can't be trusted to make sure we get results. I think it'd be good to go have a loan. Like Jack Wilshere did it. I think Jack Wilshere went to Bolton in 2010 and it was probably good for him. You know, obviously he had injuries, so it never worked out properly. But it was to go and learn a little bit and to play minutes because he's good enough to come in at 17 and score 9 goals. You're good enough. But we can't afford to play him until we get to the title. Like, then we can really take the handbrake off. I think like next season we'll see once we win the title. But yeah, he's not going to get the minutes in his team whilst we need to win games.
We are going into a difficult run of games. So starting with the game on Sunday, Arsenal are going to be the first top-flight team in history to play away in 4 different competitions in 10 days. So we do need this depth that we've been kind of, celebrating for a while. So the idea of Nwaneri not being there, we are looking a bit thin on the ground, especially if we continue to play Rice, Zubimendi. I think Rice, I know we didn't mention him before,
he was flat
tired.
yesterday. Yeah.
Looked a bit, and he has been so good, but he did look tired yesterday.
Yeah, I think that was a big factor in our performance as well, not getting that second wind that he sort of essentially brings to the team through his own lung power. But yeah, I think it's 10 games between January 11th and February 12th. And that is a lot. Obviously, the Carabao Cup really complicates this period. So I can see a situation where we're actually going to start to need Ethan Nwaneri. And because you know what will happen, he'll go out on loan and either Ødegaard or Eze or both will get injured. And then even if one of them gets injured, then the burden's on one of them to play every game and it'll become a problem. I feel like he's got a part to play this season, Nwaneri, especially with the FA Cup starting now. I think when he's featured, he's been pretty good as well.
I think so.
You're right about the off-the-ball stuff. I think that is, the defensive side of his game isn't maybe quite as switched on as you would hope.
But he needs to play to learn.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And that's what I really want. I said I love him. Like even more so for me than Martin Ødegaard. I think there is something magical like in the boy, and he's still so young. I just want him he's got to learn the one side of the game. And I don't think he's just not going to get the minutes. But you're right, I'm just thinking about it. That packed schedule is coming and you're right, we are going to need him. And he's a goal scorer. Is what he's got a goal scoring gene.
Definitely, man. I mean, he got 9 goals last season, didn't he? And I think at his age, only Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen in the Premier League, or sort of in English football rather, have hit that. And some of those goals are in the Champions League as well. Like, he's phenomenal. Like, I think it's getting forgotten how impressive he is at his age.
So we might see him at the weekend. We might see him wearing red at the weekend because this game against Portsmouth will be the first time since 2021 that we have decided to drop the all-white kit that Arsenal have done. So this is their all-white kit that they do as part of the No More Red Anti-Knife Crime Initiative. There's an article on The Athletic that talks a little bit about superstition in football when it comes to this type of thing, changing kits.
The good thing is obviously the No More Red campaign is continuing, and it's a really, really good thing.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of sort of pitch refurbishment in Islington, and it's like been a really positive thing that's involved a lot of people in the community and been really great, and that work is going to continue. So, I mean, it's obviously the results are not connected to the kit, but it feels like it. It feels like it.
How good for the campaign was it that we had this association to this losing shirt? It's actually good we're going to get rid of it and we can focus on because it's a very important, it's close to my heart as well. It's a very important cause, and like I said, we've done well. We got helped to get Idris get his knighthood, which I'm very proud of, a hero of mine. But yeah, I mean, there is probably some sort of psychological reason for it because we're just not used to seeing ourselves playing white. I mean, that could be a massive reason. We're used to seeing certain colours like on the pitch. I remember United played away at Southampton once in grey and lost 5-3 because it's not what they're used to, and it wasn't.
I always thought that Southampton didn't get enough credit for that because they were playing an invisible team, and they scored 5 goals.
Amazing,
absolutely incredible. Well, we wait and see how Arsenal will get on not wearing white as they face Portsmouth on Sunday, and I will be joined by Luke Kempner for an immediate post-match reaction to this game, hopefully an Arsenal win. So do hit subscribe and turn on episode notifications wherever you're listening to make sure that you don't miss it. Now, we want to hear from you because this is a community. So we have a little feature we're calling Rate My Seat. Wherever you're watching the game this weekend, we want to know about it and we want to see it so that we can be nosy and we can judge you. So send us a picture of your view or whatever screen you're watching on. It could be a pub in Highbury, a basement bar in Brooklyn. You could be rugged up in your bed watching them in the middle of the night. It could be your normal local Arsenal spot or somewhere completely bizarre. However, wherever you're watching, send your picture and a short description to show@thingaboutarsenal.com, or you can DM us on Instagram @thingaboutarsenal or X @aboutarsenalpod. And we are going to give you our thoughts because we are judgmental, petty people and we want to know where you're watching Arsenal from. So get in touch on email or on socials and we will share our favourites on our channels and then we will brutally rate them on Monday's episode. So get in touch and be the second entry for Rate My Seat because we've had the first one already on this show, Jonny watching from the famous cock.
Not on the famous cock, but in the famous cock.
What did I just say?
No, you're right. No, got it right. I just wanted to clarify that for viewers. And I do love the famous cock. There is other great pubs in and around.
Other cocks are available.
Other cocks are available, but the famous one's the best one.
Fantastic. After the break, we pay tribute to our underappreciated Arsenal legends. Well, we did promise you some nostalgia, and now it's time to fully indulge. So Luke is not on the show today. You will hear from him on Sunday, but he wanted to ask us this question.
Hello everyone, happy first episode. I thought I've got to get involved. Now last night I was on the way to the stadium, I was walking down the Hornsey Road and I saw that Martin Ødegaard has finally got his own mural. So it got me thinking, what are the players amongst the fan base that haven't got their recognition and should get their own mural? I'm thinking could be Yaya Sanogo, could be Igor Stepanovs, could be Stefan Lichtstein or someone else. Who do you think? Also, big shout out to the real Northbanksy. See you soon!
Quite the question, and big shout out again to Northbanksy, who is responsible for these murals. If you've never seen them and you're going to the Emirates, they're in the tunnel, basically right by the ground. Jim, I'm going to come to you first. Who do you think belongs on the mural?
Yeah, I'm not going to do quite as deeper cut as Igor Stepanov, but a player I absolutely loved was Bakary Sagna, and I think actually, of all of the sort of post unbeaten team Wenger players, he's the one where I think you probably would have got in that team. I think there wasn't much between him and Lauren. He was such a sort of attacking force as well as being a really, really solid defender. He's really versatile. He played a few games at centre-back and was masterful there. Like, he didn't do it that much, so maybe, it was a small sample size. But he was really, really good. And I thought he was a proper bright spark in a period where a lot of the time we were defensively just all at sea, like absolutely all over the place. I'm sure there's a famous tweet doing the rounds that has been doing the rounds for years of like the quote is something like Arsenal's midfield while the defenders are having a panic, and it's just two guys sat there eating noodles while there's a literal hurricane happening in the background. Bakary Sagna was the only person battening down the hatches there. He was so consistent and so good, and yeah, I think probably because he left for Man City.
I was going to say,
even though it's probably the least controversial of all of those ones, I think maybe that kind of stopped him having the reverence that maybe he deserved.
Jim, can I ask you a question? If you were to explain Bakary Sagna to a new generation of Arsenal fans, right, the young people who listen, I'm sure there are some. How would you describe Bakary Sagna as a player? Like, compare him to someone that the old Gen Zs might know.
It's a good question because he was a very sort of. There's a bit of Reece James about him, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Because he was very, very up and down. Although, actually, you know what? Reece James has got a hell of a shot on him, and Sagna didn't score that many goals, did he?
He had a great cross in him.
Yeah, he did have a good cross on him.
He really could whip it in.
Right, well, Northbanksy, get it done. Want to see that up on want to see Bakary Sagna in the tunnel. Jonny,
great Barnet as well.
Great Barnet. Great Barnet, great skin. Just all round. Yeah, very, very Arsenal classic. Jonny, your pick, please.
Mine would be Sylvain Wiltord. Sylvain Wiltord, and this for multiple moments, to be fair. I do think he is a very forgotten man. But obviously, the winning, the goal he scores at Old Trafford, that celebration with his fist up and everyone collapsing around him at Old Trafford, sealing a double after we just beat Chelsea in the FA Cup final. That is an iconic moment. But he's not just that. He scored goals the next season in the semi-final of the FA Cup, He scored a winning goal, scored a hat-trick against West Ham. The season in the 01-02 season, which a lot of Arsenal fans think was probably the best team in terms of the mixture of both old and new.
Gets forgotten a bit as well, isn't it? Because
really
the unbeaten
forgotten.
team.
And that team went on like a 40 or 50 game goal scoring run in terms of scoring in every game. He scored 17 goals in that 01-02 season. And a lot of it was from off the bench. Clutch player. And yeah, I've just got a lot of time for Wiltord.
I think the one that you mentioned where he's got his sort of fist up, people say this all the time, but would be a nice statue. Would be a nice statue. We don't have enough statues at the Emirates, and I think we need to lower the bar a little bit as to who gets a statue. And I think that could be nice.
There's loads of room. There's loads of room. It's a big stadium.
Has Wrighty got one?
Absolutely loads.
No, he hasn't. It's controversial, isn't it? I think there was a campaign recently which I would absolutely endorse personally.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one of my favourite things about that clip from Wiltord celebrating the goal at Old Trafford is there's an angle of the celebration where Carnu leapfrogs him.
Yeah.
He was only 5'8", but it's still that shows you how massive Carnu was that you can leapfrog a man like that.
Bring back leapfrogging players in celebrations. Bring that back.
Not with our injury record, baby.
No. Oh my God. I don't know who it was the other day. Actually, it was one of the Wednesday games where the players celebrated by doing a sort of fish dive.
It was Raul Jimenez, yeah.
Yes. And I was like,
a man with a lot of injury history.
Correct. And he basically flings himself to the floor as if like a fish diving out of water. And I just thought, I would be so angry if any of our players did that. That's a dislocated shoulder all day.
I think Arteta would give them 100 lines each if they did that. Yeah.
You'd be on the naughty step forever.
No leapfrogs for you.
No leapfrogs for me, absolutely not. Alexis Sanchez is mine. Now, I know that that's going to divide opinion, and I don't care. This is a very personal one for me because it represents more about when I came to be a kind of real fanatical Arsenal fan, and that was when we kind of signed him, and he was just probably the first superstar that I remember seeing in the flesh. And that's why I've got this real association with him as being just a level above what we were at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed to see that he's still playing. He's still playing. He's still knocking about La Liga. Fantastic. I thought he might have retired and gone to live on a farm with his dogs, but he's still going.
He's like one of those builders that will never stop working. Like he can't get on a lawnmower or anything. He just has to keep. It's the only thing he knows. Isn't it? He was. I did when we had him. I loved him, Laura. But then that image of him sitting on a piano.
Yep.
It will never leave me. It will never leave me to this day, but then I did forgive him slightly for how badly he performed.
I was going to say, it went very downhill, so
funny.
I'm like, you quite literally ruined your career by leaving
and he
Arsenal.
Knew it. And he knew it.
Yeah, it was. I remember when we signed him, and it was a superstar at the time, obviously, and I was so excited. Just I felt the same way then as like when we signed Declan Rice.
I was going to say,
it was like a
this
genuinely
is a superstar.
Was there all the pictures of Wenger on the beach in Brazil because he was working at the World Cup? It was the 2014, and I remember and there was all these pictures. Oh, Wenger's still out in Brazil trying to sign Sanchez, and then when it happened, it was like that with Ozil in your team as well.
I'm still getting excited about what they might achieve, even though I saw it all happen. But yeah, it was, oh God, and he really delivered, Sanchez as well. And he was the best player in the Premier League for a little while.
I love players with a little sort of quirk as well, and he used to tuck up one of his shorts. So you'd have one just normal, and he used to roll up, especially when he was about to take a free kick.
Leg?
I think so. Yeah. And Ben White does it now, so it's just quite a nice bit of continuity.
That's what's football then, Ben White, you liar.
Absolutely,
You've seen that. That's a deep cut. That's a real observation. That
absolutely. Well, we would love to know your picks as well, be them niche or be them generic. But Thierry Henry doesn't count. He's on there, and you can go and see all of the murals if you are at the game or on the website, which we will link in the episode description. Let us know. Send us your picks at ThingAboutArsenal on Instagram and at AboutArsenalPod on X, or you can email us show@ThingAboutArsenal.com. We're 6 points clear, everyone. Let that be the last thing you hear from me.
Yeah, exactly. Let's enjoy that.
Let's enjoy that.
We'll carry on romping to the league title, and we've got to be confident. 6 points clear is not easy in January in this league.
Romping, absolutely love that. Romping to the title, very, very Daily Mail-esque. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on our very first episode of The Thing About Arsenal. We appreciate you being here for us. I'm back alongside Luke Kempner on Sunday for On the Whistle reaction after the Portsmouth game. So join us for that. And you will be hearing from other members of the gang shortly.
Because we are a gang.
Yes, a family and a gang.
Family, a gang, a community. And don't forget to send your submissions for Rate My Seat. We would love to hear from you. And most importantly of all, hit subscribe wherever you're watching and listening and tell your Arsenal mates. Have you got Arsenal mates?
I do.
I've got loads.
Loads
and
of
you're all
our-
going to hear about this.
Absolutely.
I've got loads.
Loads of
See
Arsenal
you
mates.
soon.
Help us build our new Arsenal community. We appreciate the support, don't we?
Yes.
Absolutely. We will see you next time.